Okay, well, I would like to obviously keep this rolling very quickly. So, thank you to Cannabis Business Europe for inviting me. This is my second talk here in Europe. I am originally from America, so I'm quite excited to share with you some of the best practices and lessons that I've learned amongst my career in cannabis. So, who am I? What makes me qualified to even be up here speaking with all of you? My background is in chemistry. I have over 15 plus years working in laboratories, traditional laboratories, and environmental, FDA laboratories, contract laboratories. And honestly, my career was fantastic. I love pushing buttons on an HPLC, but then I decided, okay, how am I making an impact? How am I affecting change in my environment or people that I work with? So I started a search on a journey to see, okay, what industry do I want to work in? What do I want to do? And I came into cannabis by total surprise. It was a fantastic opportunity in the States with a license that was getting started in Florida. And I had the opportunity to start up a company from the ground floor. And when I say the ground floor, there was no ground. It was literally just on paper. So I have gained so much experience from that position 7-8 years ago, and have now entered into a realm of being able to speak to people about those experiences, collaborate with universities, publications in our industry to be able to push the scientific effort behind the cannabis industry and not just the business side of being able to make money. I'm also a licensed project manager, and I have quite a bit of relationships within the regulatory environment here in Europe, in the UK, and also in the US. I currently work as the global head of KD Phyto. KD Phyto is located here in Germany. We are in the Saarland, and we are specializing in producing ingredients from cannabinoids. So we have a very specific, innovative technology suite where we are able to extract from the plant and essentially keep the essence of the plant when we go all the way to isolated CBD, isolated THC, or any of the minor cannabinoids as ingredients. Currently, we are focused on ingredient supply to the pharmaceutical space and also to the nutraceutical space whenever we are allowed to supply those ingredients. Eventually, we will have our own brand of CBD products and cannabinoid products that are mixed. However, that's going to be further in the future. We are definitely a supplier of ingredients, cannabinoids that are major and minor. So, why do you want to manufacture cannabinoid products? I don't think any of us went to sleep and then woke up one day and said, yeah, cannabis, this is for me. Everybody has a story. So I would say that a lot of people would say plant passion. They have a passion for the plant. Maybe they've had experience with the plant when they were younger, or they've seen someone have a positive experience from the plant. Me specifically, I had no idea about cannabis coming into it. So I decided to educate myself. And thankfully, Sanjay Gupta did a very good job with his CNN special regarding Charlotte Figge, her epilepsy, how cannabinoids can work. And it really intrigued me. And I thought it was quite interesting that here's a little girl who's suffering very, very horribly and needs help and does not have help from the traditional market. And here's something that essentially Charlotte's Web called stoner's death because it just didn't get anyone high. They were able to use this to help her. And this really started the journey of, okay, this is real, this is big. So for me, that really gave me an opportunity to say, okay, I can make an impact in this industry. What are some of the other reasons? Alternative medicines. We all have heard of very harmful drugs that are in the market that are being used currently. And one of the biggest issues is the mortality rates from those drugs, the addiction rates from those drugs, and things that are just horrible side effects. You can just list a lot. So I think a lot of people jump into this industry because they want to push forward on having an alternative to some of those harmful drugs and ingredients that I think right now we're seeing a huge shift in awareness from people regarding everything that we're consuming and what's natural, what's healthy, what's going to extend our life. So alternative medicine is a huge reason why people get into this industry as well. An impactful business. A lot of people, when they go to start up a business, they're thinking, okay, how can I make an impact with this business, whether that's on my customer, my employees, or the market that I'm serving? It's very important that you think of these things, especially with ESG, with sustainability, with our environmental impact, and everything that's going on in the world today. So I think that this is a major reason why investors will get into this industry as well, because they know that they can make a very huge positive impact on someone's life, whether that's someone close or someone far. However, let's get real. This is why most people will get into the industry. They have seen the wild, wild west in the States. They've seen the money rolling in. They've seen the millions overnight. They've seen, I've built a brand out of nothing in my garage, and now I have this huge company globally that I'm, selling and offering all these products. You can make a lot of money in cannabis. We all know this. However, if this is your primary target goal of getting in this industry, you are going to cloud every single decision that you need to make along the line to have a successful business. And that's exactly why I wanted to speak about some of the lessons I learned, some of the potholes that I fell in or watched companies fall in. So maybe it can give you some key takeaways, something to chew on and say, oh, I was going to go in that direction, but thankfully somebody else did. They failed. Let me pivot. So I think this is a good opportunity to give you guys some of those lessons. Firstly, you have to do good due diligence. From my project management hat, absolutely 100% planning, thinking, brainstorming. You really need to spend most of your time there. Some of the lessons that I've learned is that when you're going into the market, people will look at the quickest way to get there. So you can have an opportunity to lease or inherit a facility or inherit land. However, if you haven't done the proper due diligence, you don't really know what you can do with that facility. You don't really know what you can do with that land. So you may acquire something. Let's say you acquire 5 acres of land. I'm going to grow hemp. I'm going to create CBD. It's going to be fantastic, only to realize that you now are within a school zone and you can't operate. So now you have completely wasted your investment and you're back to the drawing board. Or you buy your equipment first. Maybe you see there's a failed company down the road. They've got a huge equipment suite that they paid millions of dollars for that they're trying to get rid of for $100,000. You're like, wow, that's a great deal. I'm going to grab it now because I know what I'm doing. However, you get into the industry and realize, oh no, I just bought all this equipment and it's not legal to extract. I can only grow. So now you're sitting here with all this equipment that you can't use. Diverse product development. Some people will go into the market thinking, I'm going to make everything for everyone. I'm going to have CBD, THC, minor cannabinoids, specialized drugs. I'm going to have tinctures, capsules, whatever it is. However, if you get down the road of having way too many SKUs, you can find out that your target market could care less about manufactured products. They just want flower. So some of the best practices when it comes to market due diligence is going to be to survey that regulatory landscape first. Know what you can and can't do. Make sure that you do a thorough analysis on supply and demand in the market, production, throughput, and yield of the equipment that you're looking at. And also specifically look at the market and the demographics in the market. What are they buying? What are they looking at? What are they interested in? What are these focus groups saying to me? And then you can have a much better targeted, thorough plan that is tailored specifically to your market and what it is you're trying to accomplish. Nextly, let's dive a little further into that regulatory environment. So we're talking about compliance and legal. Huge. Lessons learned. You can have all of your production equipment and realize that is completely unauthorized. For instance, if you're in a market where they say, yes, extraction is fine, we're going to have manufactured products, great. You buy all of this butane extraction equipment because you want to have the greatest terpene profile and huge throughputs and yields, only to realize LPGs are illegal in this market. You can only extract using ethanol or CO2. Huge. Unauthorized products. You can start producing products, have a huge inventory, have a huge suite, only to realize that you can't actually sell those products because now all of your labels on those products say it can fix this, it can heal this, it can cure this. And now you're completely out of compliance and they have shut down your entire product offering and you have to start over. Or you have legal action come against you because you have now infringed on someone else's product formula, or you are using a novel method that someone else is using. There's things like this that'll come into play where legal action is going to not only hurt your business financially, it's also going to hurt your reputation and your brand awareness. And that's extremely important in cannabis with consumers. They are very loyal to brands. So some of the best practices for that: make sure you survey all of the laws in your area. Know exactly what you are allowed to do and not do. Understand laws at all of the levels. In the states, this is very easy to talk about because it's different state to state to state to state, and then you have this federal umbrella. Same here in the EU, you have regional laws and local authorities, and then you have your state laws, and then you have your national laws. So you want to make sure that you have done a very thorough understanding of your legal landscape. And then also be open and transparent and work very closely with the authorities that are going to give you permission. I mean, if there's somebody that's going to open the gate to me making millions, shouldn't I buy them coffee? Shouldn't I say hello and make sure that we have that relationship and we have a good opportunity to really forge something ahead? So this is going to give you the opportunity to enhance your go-to-market strategy by laying out what is clearly allowed activities for your business. So next, let's get into our production strategy. So now we know what our laws are. Now we know what our regulatory landscape is. What do we do internally? Well, what we don't do is not plan and then buy equipment that can only produce 1 kilo a week, 2 kilos a week. And then now we realize that the market that we're in really demands for us to produce hundreds of kilos a week to be able to service this market. So you want to make sure you understand the equipment that you're purchasing and how you can supply the demand that's in the market. Non-compliance. You can have equipment that you've purchased extremely cheap from somewhere. I'm not going to name where. But then you end up commissioning that equipment and you go through your inspection only to find out that you cannot qualify your equipment as GMP because it's missing the material certifications, it's missing the training logs and cleaning documentation. These are extremely important considerations when you're going into purchasing your equipment. And then obviously being overstocked. You don't want to get so excited about jumping into the industry that all you do is produce, and you don't have any customers or potential business lined up, and you end up with things on your shelf that are just going to sit and expire and no one's going to want. So you're going to want to have a proper analysis of the throughput of your equipment and the proper calculations of what is the maximum capacity. What can I do with this equipment? How hard can I push it before it decides to break on me? You also want to inquire with the equipment manufacturer about the compliance aspects of the equipment. Is my hardware going to be able to be qualified as GMP? Is my software going to be able to have the proper securities in place to where we can not have diversion and theft or have any types of misinformation on analytics and reporting? And then you also want to make sure that you calculate a proper production schedule that's based on the minimum throughput of your equipment so that you can build a small inventory just to test the market. And then as you start to get more and more customers in business, then you can start to increase your production and build that volume. These considerations are going to help you maintain a stable and sustainable supply chain, understanding what your market demand is and how you can reasonably supply it. Quality. Obviously now we're in production and we're producing a product, but we need to make sure that it's high quality because that's what we claimed on our website, correct? So in order to do that, what are some of the lessons that we've learned? Well, you can have out of spec products. You can make products, they look great, they're golden, they're liquidy, fantastic, but they may not have the proper cannabinoid content or the purity levels that are necessary for the market. For instance, with CBD here in Europe, based on the European Pharmacopoeia, you need to have a purity of 98 to 102% for a CBD isolate. Anything that falls out of this, I can't sell it, guys. I'm out of spec. So you have to make sure that you know and understand what are some of the quality aspects I need to take into consideration. IPCs, we did touch on this in the keynotes. They're very important. You have to have in-process controls. You need to make sure you understand what is my process doing along the way, how can I optimize it, and what am I ending up in the back end. And then accreditations. You want to make sure that you have all of the accreditations that are necessary to leverage your business. If that's EU GMP compliance, if that's ICH guidelines that you follow, if that is other accreditations that are specific to your region. These are the things that will show that you put quality and safety above the money. What are some of the best practices for this? Well, you develop and you follow all of the production SOPs to produce a consistent product. SOP development is evolving in the beginning, but once you set those parameters, then you train the personnel to stick to the SOPs as their Bible, essentially. During process development, it's very important to pull the samples to test your target concentration. How do I know the flower that I started off with that's 18% is going to actually get me to CBD of 98%? You don't know that unless you're doing some sort of external testing or internal testing. And then you want to build a robust quality system that's in line with the GMP and ICH guidelines for pharmaceuticals or other applications, whatever that is. If you're in dietary supplements, OTC drugs, just make sure you understand what that quality system needs to look like. And once you do this, then you can have a comprehensive, transparent, and evolving quality system that will help you be the producer of high quality cannabinoid products. And then you can have those claims and say that I'm superior and I'm premium because you have something that's backing it up. And last but not least, and probably the most important, is going to be project management. You just have to have really good project management skills. You have to have the understanding that this is a very complex environment with a very complex product, with a very complex, honestly, consumer base. You really never know what your consumer base is going to tell you they want today versus 2 years from now. So some of the lessons that I've learned: you will delay your project execution when you don't have a very good planning phase. When you just jump into decisions emotionally, or you jump into decisions thinking you have it figured out from the last industry that you came from. That's all fine, but let's put it on paper. Let's map out the risk analysis and some of those things in those decisions, so that way you don't delay your project execution. If your investors are saying, hey, I'm giving you $5 million, but in 2 years, I need to see a return, you have to be able to map out those milestones for them so that they can continue to invest in you to grow and expand your business. So make sure you're planning. Make sure you're managing your project tightly and closely. Also, surprise spending will come from not planning properly. You will find so quickly how expensive testing and retesting will get. Then you'll look at your bills over the month and say, oh my God, how did I spend $150,000 in testing on that one batch? And I still can't sell it. So you definitely want to make sure that you're not going to increase your surprise spending, because this happens, guys. It does. Impacts to your market share potential. This is going to, we just looked at first mover advantage. I'm not going to have a first mover advantage if my first impression is a dud product that I can barely reproduce. I want to have a good market share potential in saying, I know the product that I'm bringing to the market, it's sustainable, it's reproducible, and not only is it that, I can add to it with all this other cool stuff. So I think that's really important to make sure that you're really considering all of these things in these projects. So some of the best practices: accurately determine the timelines for all the tasks that are on the critical path, including buffers for real-time delays and unforeseen events. It happens, it will happen. It's not if, it's when. So you need to make sure you buffer in those times to make sure that you're telling your higher ups, your investors, the right things about when you're launching, how much money you're going to be able to make. You also want to properly estimate the cost to start up the operation. A lot of people, I have watched this multiple times over 8 years, will undershoot. They will undershoot and then eventually get into a position where now I need to go crowdfund. I need to go ask investors for more money because I just really didn't evaluate this properly. So you want to make sure that you understand the operational costs for startup, the people you're going to be hiring, ancillary costs, any of those supporting services. All of this goes into those calculations. And then finally, you want to thoroughly plan to avoid an extended execution period, because you can get caught up in the planning phase and I'll try this little error, go back to the drawing board. Don't be afraid. Just know that if you've made a concrete plan, stick to it. If there's mistakes that have happened along the way, learn from them. That's fine. We're not perfect. It will get to a good place if you have a great plan to go ahead. So with proper planning, this will lead you to a project execution that's going to have minimal hurdles and delays. It's also going to help you accurately calculate budgets and timeline so that you can assure all of your stakeholders that are involved that the forecasted revenues of $15,000 billion trillion will definitely come in by 2025. And thank you very much, guys. That's all I have.